All right, welcome back to the 80 Star Basketball Channel, the only star basketball channel bringing you Dr. Beckett, Steve Taft, Dave Denzel, and myself for an interview. I'm going to have to be kind of fast on this one, but this is my response real quick. So what I'm going to do in this is I'm going to actually give my basically just like 5 minutes, and then I'm actually going to play his podcast for the entire duration. I'm not going to interrupt it. I'm not going to do anything. So he has it on his website. I'll put a link in the comments, but or in the description. But really, I let it go fully, so you can listen to it after. So I'm going to be really quick and try and get a few points in beforehand, because there was one point. There's a couple things here. First of all, it sounded to me, what's kind of funny, it sounded almost a little more tense than it was. It was really four guys who care about the hobby talking, trying to figure this thing out. And, just much respect for Dr. Beckett. He really did lay out the explanations. There was only one edit that I found that was a little off, but it was kind of in a moment where I think he got a little confused. And it's at the 13:10 mark. And he said that essentially they should have sold out because Jordan was already something, but it wasn't. Jordan, they actually released it in the middle of the season. He said he was already rookie of the year when they released the 101, and that wasn't correct. He got confused on something. He even said, "Oh, okay." And he kind of yielded on that, and but the edit kind of made it look like Steve Taft actually agreed with him, when I think Steve was kind of saying it was extended into the year. So that's my recollection of it. So I believe that edit was there. I'll bring that up with Beckett. We are going to be meeting on Tuesday of next week, and Dave will be there, I think, and Steve Taft is optional. Both Dave and Taft are optional, but I'm going to be responding. And it was a great session. We didn't ask much. There's a reason we didn't have a bunch of questions, was because this was kind of Beckett throwing in the format and leading the dialogue. So we were kind of my questions and stuff, and what I want to do is going to be more on Tuesday, which will be a different, more solution oriented, focus. One of the things he said, "Hey, if we got this wrong, let's get it right." And I think he has to be very careful with his words. I think one of the main things is he's afraid to affect values. But I want to find a place where maybe we can get more agreement, and where I think what's happening and more solution oriented. And on that, I'm going to kind of grab this mantle that he kind of put the seed out and said, "Hey, maybe it is like this. Maybe that's the true rookie card, and everyone just considers, some people consider this the rookie, and it's just more popular." So I'm going to really kind of focus there, because it actually works in every which way and sideways, whether you data model it. And what it actually is a classification. It really is a modern classification. So there's great that he let everyone's point be heard, and you can kind of, he definitely shows that. So again, kind of nothing but mass respect for Dr. Beckett. He really is coming from trying to take people who disagree with him again, and bringing them on and kind of saying, "Hey, this is something that let's talk it out, and let's hear what you have to say." So I am doing this because he wasn't able to get it up on YouTube. So I'm putting this in kind of as in the library almost. That's why I'm about to play all this again, unfiltered. I'm not stopping it anywhere and looking at it. But this was just a fantastic talk, and there's going to be more coming. So it's just great. So like, subscribe, and here it is, the first part of our interview with Dr. Beckett, Steve Taft, Dave Denzel, and myself regarding the Michael Jordan rookie classification.
Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insight. A little bit longer episode. Thanks, sponsors. Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, ComC.com, and Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication. Conversation about the Star Company, following up with the Jordan, the XRC, all these things that people are jumping on the bandwagon now. But where was the bandwagon 35, 38 years ago. So I'm trying to explain that, and I've enlisted three, not necessarily opponents because they passionately love the hobby, but they're very much in the star camp. Steve Taft, Dave Zenzel, and Ryan Jessup. We spent 2 hours, so I gave them plenty of time. In fact, I'll do another time because we really didn't run out. When you get four passionate people on a call, and everybody's got strong opinions. So it was fun for me. I don't think I convinced them or vice versa necessarily, but we each threw out some things that were worth chewing on and considering, and that's what makes the hobby fun. So thanks, guys. And here is the first part. There'll be more to come, and appreciate, again, that we have a hobby where people care passionately. Here it is. I'm not infallible. I get a lot of things right, but not everything. So I have made mistakes. I don't think this is one of them. But the other thing, and Dave knows this firsthand now, and Steve, is that I have a lot of endurance. I have a lot of tenacity. When I lock in on something, I lock in on it so much that I had a heart attack almost 28 years ago. So I was very immersive about this whole subject. But Ryan, this wasn't my main dilemma in the course of being in the hobby. This is just one of many things that came up that was Solomon split the baby kind of stuff. I had to make the call. I don't know that I was the judge and the jury, but I was probably the judge. And if there would have been a jury, I would have been giving the jury instructions. So I realized I had an important place and a lot of influence. But again, every judge is not infallible. Frankly, if something's wrong, let's right it. But I think we can each share some perspectives and see if that gives each of us a chance to reflect on, does that change the way we think about something? Too many write the headline and then do the research. In the situation, I couldn't write the headline. I had to do the research and figure out what's the headline for this. And it was that the Jordan Star Company card would be an XRC, and it had to do with the company itself, not just that situation. But you get a lot of confirmation bias if you start with a conclusion and then try to justify it. I have seen a lot of the content producers provide a lot of non-random sample support for their conclusions. I really don't have any problem with that unless it's represented as a random sample. It's not a random sample. It's a sample of people that feel passionately about seeing that card in a certain way. But there's a lot of silent majority people that don't. It's not ends justify the means, but historically, this is what people thought. And the people are not saying anything unless you turn over the apple cart and all of a sudden change things in midstream. I think you'd hear a lot more vocal criticism if there was some big change. Again, I'm not the guy anymore, so I'm not in control of that, but there's probably 50 times as many people that have a Jordan clear card as have a Jordan Star card. It could be 100 to 1. Surely it's 50 to 1. So when I was doing this, guys, I attempted to get a random sample. I used to teach sampling. The best kind of sampling sometimes is stratified. In other words, you don't just get a bunch of random people. You think, what do the dealers think? What do the collectors think? You stratify and you try to make sure that you're in sync, because those constituencies could unbalance the survey. And basically, our technique back in the 80s was always to survey dealers first. Our corporate position and my personal position was that card shops and dealers were the lifeblood of the hobby. So it needed to be fair to them. So we listened to them first. We really were trying to cover the market thoroughly as best you could in the pre-internet days. It was harder to get data, but I always felt like the data we got was more reliable because we could look the people in the eye. We were at the shows, we were in the stores, we had customer service reps talking to them, so we were getting a lot of feedback. The biggest part of our company, again, it's not well known, but we had a very small sales department. Our sales department was actually customer service. We just felt if we served the customer, the sales would come, and that's what happened. So we were not trying to talk people into anything. We were trying to serve them well. And that meant listening to them. Okay, so in those days, Steve, Star wasn't unfriendly to dealers, but they had a hand-picked group of master distributors, and they were mainly working with them. And those were not bad guys. They were good guys. But it wasn't easy. They weren't unfriendly to card shops, but they weren't friendly either. They didn't make it easy for card shops to order. So you really didn't see the Star sets in many of the local card shops. What I haven't heard said is, why is that? It's not just because it was difficult. From our assessment, collectors weren't asking for it. Dealers stock what the collectors asked for. And basketball in The mid 80s was not as popular, admittedly. And when it got popular, collectors were asking the dealers, hey, you've got to stock this stuff. But they weren't asking for Star in 84, 85. The reason we know that is that Star wasn't sold out. Topps Chrome, which might not even be a very great product that came out 2 weeks ago, broke the internet, and it's not even a great product. Star didn't even sell out because it wasn't there. It didn't have the visibility, Dave. Basketball wasn't as hot, but there were other smaller boutique kind of sets that did sell out, but their baseball single player sets didn't do very well either. So
But 86 Fleer didn't sell out either.
Or 87, 88 or 88, 89.
Right.
My point is, we had customer service calling on dealers, calling on the local card shops. Star didn't. They had a very thin, lean operation. They depended on their 5 or 6 master distributors, pretty much all of whom I knew and saw at the shows. When I went to the shows, they were the main ones that had it.
But Star did advertise in all the major publications, right? And anyone that wanted them could pick up the phone and order them without ever leaving their home.
Yes.
It's not like they weren't obtainable.
No, I never said they were not attainable. I just said
Right.
they didn't make it easy. Topps has regular distributors that have routes. This was Robert Levin and his secretary or something. It was more of a virtual company.
I thought it was pretty easy to deal with Star. I got the very first order form on the 83 All-Star set and placed an order. I assume that's because he lifted one of my ads in one of the hobby magazines back at that point. And yes, there were the 5 somewhat major distributors, but I've got a box of invoices here from hobby shops and dealers all over the country, 400 or 500 invoices. And it's not all of his invoices. It's a healthy chunk of them, I think. But I know it's not all of them because I couldn't find any of my invoices in there. So quite a few hobby shops and dealers were ordering.
And regular consumers, too. I've met a bunch of people who told me that when they were 13, 14-year-old kids, they called the ad, they ordered a couple bags through the mail.
Yeah, I've got a few invoices where it looks like a private collector. They usually had to pay an extra 50 cents, 75 cents a bag. And if they were ordering a set, at that time, it would have been one series at a time. So typically 7 different teams. So
Right.
he did do some of that.
My takeaway is they were actually easier to obtain than Topps or Fleer or any other brand because you never even had to leave your home. I've met people on my journey that live in remote parts of the country that have all the Star sets because it was just easier for them to buy those than it was to drive 45 minutes to the closest store that had packs.
Okay, Dave and Steve, these are anecdotal, true stories. I'm not denying that. But there were 20,000 card shops at one time in the hobby and 1 million people getting our magazine. And most of them did not even know about the Star Company because they were not visible. I also, Steve, got the notices and paid my money because I was a completist. I was on the list as well. So I know that happened. I'm not disagreeing that those things happen. But if they happen to a great enough degree, Dave, why didn't they sell out? It's 5,000 sets.
I wanted nothing to do with basketball at that time. You said yourself, it just wasn't popular. Surely if there was more demand, they would have printed more sets.
That's a pretty small number.
We're talking about now almost national distribution. How do you quantify national distribution? And unless you actually put something to it that's going to say, okay, is it available? The more rigid you make the criteria, the more things drop off and the harder it is to obviously meet the criteria, which can be or not be connected to other things. Are you trying to say that because it didn't sell out or that low popularity, it wasn't nationally distributed? Because I would say that if it was available at anywhere at any time, as Dave and Steve are saying, that to me constitutes nationally distributed. If you could be in Seattle, if you're a card shop, you could attain that. And I understand that it not being as popular, but if it was attainable, there has to be a baseline definition to be able to take that and then quantify it. If you're going to put that in and say, what does this mean?
I've used that language, but it's not just about national distribution. National distribution was defined in those days by being available in your neighborhood hobby shop or in your neighborhood convenience store. By that definition, it was not nationally distributed. It was nationally available by mail order. I don't know if you guys collect wrestling, but The Hulk Hogan 82 Wrestling All-Stars card. That's a legit XRC to me. It was an ad in the back of the Wrestling Illustrated or a Wrestling magazine. Anybody could get it. I got it because I tried to get everything. But the hobby recognizes the 85 Topps, the 85 OPC, Hulk Hogan as the true rookie card. But the Wrestling Series A card is way more valuable. And nobody's put an XRC on it. It's just recognized that may not even be his first card, but it's the first card that people see a lot. And it's huge premium over the Topps and OPC, which were mass produced, readily available in lots of card shops. So that's what RC meant, is that it was readily available in the card shops. And 500, when our analysts were traveling the country, they'd go to all these card stores. I bet Star Company cards were not in 9 out of 10 of the stores that we visited. 1 out of 10. Now, could they have gotten it? Yes, but they didn't.
And I would, again, put that down to the popularity of if the economics aren't there and if there's no demand.
That's why Robert Levin was so excited when we talked on the phone and I told him we were going to list his sets in the book, that we were going to legitimize his company and his sets in the book and give them equal treatment to every other set that came out in the books. He was overjoyed.
I don't know if that's relevant, though. He's a startup company. We're acknowledging that it was definitely a small company. It was not Topps and everything at the time. That's why Topps was out of basketball, because the context was different. So actually, in a lot of agreement with that, it just was a smaller operation. However, those things that you start to define, is it available? Can you get it for the people who want it? Yes, you can. So what's that defining line of nationally distributed or nationally available? To me, it's the same thing. Today, national treasures, you don't find that at CD. Nationally distributed then, is it? Those kind of things where we start to go into the classifications or looking at it going, what is this and what isn't? We recognize it's small. I understand the distinction, but I don't see the difference between available and just nationally available and nationally distributed, other than the fact that if it is meeting the demand of the hobby, or if it is possible to get it, to me seems to be something like you can't sell to people who don't want it. That shouldn't be a criteria against it.
If it was so available, Levin was so excited that I was going to list it because it legitimized, because he was not a major card producer. For me to legitimize his sets and put them in and give the market a chance to say, what are the value of these things? He was overjoyed. And so, yes, it was available, but in spite of when it was in the book, there still wasn't a run on these sets, which there should have been.
Why do you say there should have been?
Because it's Michael Jordan. He'd already been Rookie of the Year. He'd already been in the Olympics. The 84-85 set came out at the end of the season. It says 85 on the front.
The set came out in 3 separate series, and the first series was probably around the 1st of January, and the third series probably did come out during the playoffs, or I don't remember. It could have even been a couple weeks after the playoffs ended. Because of the 288 card putting him as Rookie of the Year, I think Jim is correct that at least the third series was a pretty late issue. It was maybe even a month or 6 weeks after the season. But the first 2 series, those came out before the season ended. One other thing I can add, I haven't done this yet, but with all those invoices, I can look and see when was the first shipment of a certain item. And one of the things that I have seen is that the 86 Court King set is actually issued before the second series of 85-6, meaning that Court King's card was Patrick Ewing's first professional licensed card, or whatever that's worth. But because it always has a print mark on it, you're never going to get a mint one.
We're all into it, and the average collector doesn't care.
Right.
But I believe this is not a winner-take-all contest. We're talking about several early cards of one of the transcendent generational talents that we've ever seen. And I allowed the marketplace to track what the prices were and report that in our books and our magazines. What people are worried about is the fact that I put XRC on one and RC on the other. But maybe this is like the Mantle and Mays and 51 Bowman and 52 Topps. Everybody knows that 52 Topps is not the rookie, but they treat it as such. They don't care what I said or what you say or anybody says. They just do what they do and the values go where they go.
Actually,
I think that's pretty true.
I would agree with that too. Go ahead.
That's where Steve and I get along pretty well. Jeremy Lee as well, is they just say, you know what, whatever the rules were 30, almost 40 years ago now, they don't care. They don't care about the Patrick Ewing nuance. Just this is an early card, and what are the comps on it? There's no price guide. In the days that we had, again, we're trying to track what's going on, but they were thinly traded.
After listening to you and what you said is like, this is a Mantle Maze thing. And that's actually exactly how I see it. So personally, again, I grew up with 86 Fleer. Fleer was actually my 88 packs, everything. It's all, that's where my unsung bias is it. And later on, when I was looking this as a classification, I said, there's one license card before this. I can't enjoy this as the rookie card. However, I can enjoy it. I really want this card because it's iconic. It's this great card. But that's actually why I went out and purchased a 101. I hate that the 101's expensive, but I did it and I finally felt comfortable. I went, this is the first license card. That to me is a rookie, which it's totally to me the Bowman Mantle thing. They're both fantastic cards. To me, it was actually from a data perspective, it's very cut and dry why the rules can't fit or don't now, and it's simply because of innovation. That's the hard thing. People don't realize how hard classifications are, especially trying to hit a moving target. You have these things that evolve and their context changes, and it gets so difficult. And from data modeling and stuff, you end up having to re-engineer things and you break your application because things change. I listened to you and I went, you know what? If he actually said what you just said, if this were like a Mantle Maze, if maybe the Jordan is the true rookie, but for at the time, for what the Fleer was, the hot product, most people are using it. It's going to put smiles on more people's faces and more action on it. Dealers can have it. It really just works. I get that. That makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of what you're seeing in the hobby right now, if you get on Instagram, if you go anywhere, they do these polls. No one wants to start a fight. Everyone's scared, but all these 3 people panels, they're all saying, yeah, I think the Star is really the true rookie card, but really this is the most iconic. The 86 Fleer really is the face of the basketball card market right now, but this is more of a true rookie card. And that actually gave me validation for what I was thinking. I just wanted to throw that out when you give this Mantle 52 as opposed to the 50.
I hate to disagree with you agreeing with me, but I'm not trying to figure out what's going to smooth things out or what everybody's going to be kumbaya. I want to do the right thing. And I realize that when you make a choice that's preferring something or classifying something different than something else, it's not splitting the baby in half. It's saying this is different from that. And by putting RC asterisk, which I originally did on the Fleer, it's giving the additional information. Not only is that a rookie card, but there's something else to be considered. The asterisk means take a look deeper. There's something that came before it. There's no asterisk if there's nothing that predates it that's an XRC. And at some point, when they did the new software, because I did the original software, when they did the new software, the database guys said, we can't do asterisks anymore. It's problematic within our code. And I understand that, but I had my own HTML that I created where it wasn't a problem. But I had my heart attack or around that time, they did it. So you just had an RC. So yeah, the Fleer should be RC asterisk, but I don't think it is anymore. What about poor John Stockton? What a bad deal there.
Someone just put that in my comment. They actually asked me to specifically ask
That's
you.
even more egregious. But
Right.
if you look at the price differential between the 4 years of having the Star, 84, 85, Stockton, and then go 4 years later for what is not mid-career because he had a great long career and was a great player, but 80, 89 as a rookie, that just doesn't sit right. According to the rules, it is, to me, an RC asterisk. First card from a major manufacturer that was nationally distributed, pack pulled, a whole bunch of things, not just these one at a time things. But I sympathize with that. It's stuck in my craw, Ryan. That doesn't seem right. But the principle that I don't know that everybody agrees with, that is listening as well as you guys, is that do you guys believe that every player that has a card has a rookie card? That's not a simple question.
No, it's not. What about no classifications? I've heard you talk about self-enforcement and things that like the card companies, the power of that little rookie stamp. to make rookie cards whatever they want it to be. And in the absence of classifications, you just letting the market decide. And I do think it's just established now. It's hard to, because we're all actually biased, that we look at first base card from first base set. That's really what has demand. To me, a rookie card being a first licensed card, nationally distributed, it doesn't have to be a major manufacturer. That's where I think those things that are either A, hard to quantify or impossible to quantify come into play. If anything, it's just difficult. But when you say that, it comes into, what do you think about no classifications? A different set of pros and cons, and I don't know which one's better. Kind of, if you say,
I do. I do. My
okay,
whole career is based on helping to classify and bring order to a chaotic industry. But one of your suggestions, Ryan, is to have more first Fleer card or something like that. I tried that. I tried to impose that on people, and that was rejected. People did not like that. It was too much alphabet soup. I tried that because I thought, hey, this would be a good way for people to understand where there's extra demand for this particular card. Had the same problem with Mark McGwire in baseball. And that was a much bigger deal than the Michael Jordan, but 85 McGwire, you've got the Olympic card. He's not in a major league uniform. It was breaking a lot of rules. Victor has tried to do a nice job on this. There's some guidelines for being a rookie card. And if they hit 9 out of 10, Ryan, and something else hits 7 out of 10, you're going to pick the one that's 9 out of 10. But my question is that you guys haven't locked in is that I believe if somebody has a card, it's confusing to say, oh, he has a card, but he doesn't have a rookie card. We put RC on the first card that came under these quote unquote rules that were established.
I think you have to have a rookie card.
I'm saying
you have to have a rookie card because that's the huge category of collectors. They want to know which card is so-and-so's rookies because that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for the second and third year card at times.
They're looking for anything,
just collect rookies.
No, but they're looking for anything that is legitimately or quasi-legitimately called a rookie card.
Right.
That could be an XRC, an RC, RC asterisk, RY, rookie year. Anything that can evoke rookie is going to have some additional band. And it should, because it's an early card of what frequently is a superstar that holds great value. I'm in favor of that.
How would you have labeled the star card if you had the monthly magazine in 84 when it was the only card available?
You're getting at my putting XRC on the Jordan card. First of all, when do you guys think I made that decision?
I'm guessing when you had to put out the magazine and actually put it in print. I'm assuming, obviously, your information that you obtained was over a period of time and led into your decision. But the moment that you put it in print, you had to go into the final thing. Okay. But I don't think that your information that you attained for that decision started the month of March 1990 before publishing the monthly for the first time.
I obviously had thought about it.
Yes.
Is there any evidence that I in any way tipped my hand?
No, Jim, we bumped into each other. I think it was a Frank and Son show in Southern California. Couple 3 weeks after that first issue showing an XRC, and I ran you down and begged you to change. And here I am 30-something years later, still trying.
You were one of the more noteworthy people that disagreed with that, but a lot of people didn't, Steve. By now it's 1990, and the 86 Fleer is pretty entrenched. So, Ryan, I didn't make a final decision until that spring of 1990. So it wasn't contemporaneously when 85 Star comes out, hey, these are going to be XRCs. I didn't even think about that. I put them in the book. I let the market determine. And immediately it was more valuable because it was obviously a lot tougher to find. But when the magazine came out, I had to take a stand. I would have been a chicken. If I put it in there with nothing, saying this is not a legitimate company or not a bona fide company or not a major manufacturer, that really wouldn't have been fair to Star because they were fully licensed. Okay, so I gave them a chance.
The man